Time to put my concoction to the test. It's okay. All right. So we've got our hot chocolate. We're ready for the morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and you're on Booktube. That's right. We're back to the Booktube side from having a very author tube filled week last week for that reader drive. Thanks for everyone who tuned in and listened to me talk very excitedly about the new book that is coming this fall and how I all wanted you to sign up to get notifications about it. Okay, so taking a deep breath and going back to reading. This week I've got 2 tags today and a wrap up on Wednesday for Wednesday wrap up. And so far I've got 6 books for Wednesday. Should be some good ones. So we have which tags today? Oh, we've got a Jim with a question. What's your question, Jim? And a Barrett. Hi, friends, with a heart. Love you, Barrett. We've got 2 tags. We've got Counting the Days. So let me look at my crib sheet here. Counting the Days tag was made by Prose and Petticoats and To Readers It May Concern, and I was tagged by Emily Clarice Pessoa at the Linguists Library, which is a great channel name. I love it. And the other tag is the Watch Later tag, which is by Reed Becca. And she tagged me because she tagged a lot of people. And as per my usual, I am very behind in getting to the tags. I sort of do one video with 2 or 3 tags per month where I try to like catch up. But as you can see, I'm a little behind. I've got my system here of writing the tag, the date, the person who it's by, the person who tagged me, and then on the side in tiny font, the day that I did it. And there's still like 7 that I haven't done. So I will get to it, hopefully. And I'm tagging 6 people today. So if you are tagged in the description, wait to hear your name and then come to the front of the room to the chalkboard prepared. Okay, so which one should we do first? Let's do Watch Later tag. So for Booktube folks, Watch Later is about your habits of watching YouTube, which is pretty meta, right? But I've got a few questions in the tag, and I answered them here and not in the right place. That's okay. Watch Later. So let's just dive in for this tag. And if you've got questions as we go along, if you're newer to YouTube or Booktube and don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about these watching habits, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Happy Sunday, Leslie. Hello. Welcome. Okay, questions. How do you choose and organize your Booktube watching? All right. So I browsed from subscriptions. So you have a home page and you have a subscriptions page that are mainly like where you would draw from. And I mainly stay on subscriptions and try to stay on top of, I should say, what is newest. I log in to see that multiple times a day, maybe like 3. But sometimes I want to see people's posts because I never get to see those unless I go to the home page. So I'll go to the home page when I'm looking for posts and updates. The second question is, do you add videos to queue, watch later playlists, or just click and watch? Okay, so the queue that Becca is talking about is the watch later queue. Oh no, that's the watch later list. The queue that she's talking about is a button that I only press accidentally that says add to queue because it gives you a little window in your window and it's waiting for you to watch it, like it's playing next or something. And I really don't understand how that works, so I have just avoided it. That's me being a Luddite. What I do is add stuff that I'm interested in from my subscriptions page to my watch later list, which is 3 dots, add to watch later. Pretty easy and hasn't changed. Knock on wood. And then I have a watch later list, and then I will usually go through that and watch stuff in the bottom quarter of it. But that's a later question, so I won't get ahead of myself. I do not add videos that I haven't watched to any other playlists, because the playlists I want to have been proofed. Like, I've watched this and it's worth a place. Mostly, my playlists that are public are my videos organized into playlists that people can find things by, like TBRs, wrap-ups, buddy reads, live stream chats, AuthorTube themed, etc. And if you want to find those, you can go over to my playlist tab. But in terms of organizing the ones that I watch, it's just a watch later list. And then if it's about author marketing, it goes into an AuthorTube marketing list. And if it's about like a video essay or something that's really, really good and I know I want to go back to it, I have like a favorites. If it's a song or a something like that, it's not Booktube, then it goes into like a drama playlist. But usually I watch it once and it's done. So I don't know. I don't know if other people do that differently. Because it depends upon if you think you're going to go back and watch it again. And there's just too many videos. There's like 100 a day that I couldn't possibly keep up with. So I don't often count that as a possibility. Becca. Nicole's here. Hello, Nicole's Bookish Nook. And JC Carpenter. Hello, welcome. I am working through the watch later tag, which is about Booktube watching habits. The next one is, let's see if oh, no. Where do you add videos? Okay, to add to that, 90% of the time I do add to my watch later list, but that's also at the top of the subscriptions list where your lives should be. Occasionally, once or twice, I've seen it where people are live who I am subscribed to and they don't show up at the top of the list. And that just flummoxes me. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to find them. I have to go to their channel. And I don't often know that that's happening and don't find it. So thankfully, that's only happened once or twice. But usually if I see someone I subscribe to who's live streaming, I'll drop in and say hello and leave a comment, like the stream, because I want to support people who I'm subscribed to and give a little love to that like button. Okay, so that answers the question. Next one, third one is, what factors into your decisions to watch or add to playlist? So since I am mainly watching if it's live or adding to the watch later list if I know I want to do in my next YouTube, Booktube binge watching session. What decides me? I mean, mood, usefulness, thumbnail for sure, timeliness, if it's something that's like relevant. A lot of folks that I follow, sometimes, not a lot, some of the folks I follow will do wrap-ups that are like a month late and 2 months late. And then I think, they're talking about something they read 2 months ago. It feels past. It's a silly thought to have. It's probably a result of our present lack of attention span culture, but that's what I do, and I'm going to be honest on this tag, so that's how I judge. Yeah, that's pretty simple. It's just sort of like what appeals to me with the thumbnail and the topic and the timeliness and the usefulness, especially with the AuthorTube side. When it's on my watch later list, I'm parsing this question a little bit. So from the subscriptions page versus the watch later list, my watch later list is about 140 now. I tried to keep it below 100 and it sort of crept up. I have a bunch that are yoga exercise that are sort of sitting there that I haven't done in a while. But next time I want to have them there. Those should probably be outsourced to a playlist, but whatever. And then I have a bunch that are like possible video research that should be on a book tags playlist for watching later and, separate it out. So, I mean, I could do some cupboard clearing, but normally, like I said, I go to my watch later list, the bottom quarter, and try to catch up and try to like make it as short as I can, sort of 10 videos at a time. And I watch recent editions because I feel like I can add value to the algorithm for those people if I watch it right away and comment, because that's what the algorithm likes. And if it's something I'm really interested, then that will sort of bump itself up the list. Depends on length. Often if something is 30 minutes or longer, that's going to be like, oh, I have to devote a whole watching session to this one. So I don't watch it for longer. So that like prevents me from watching it right away. And topic, what I'm in the mood for, which I said. Evergreen reviews and conversations stay on till I've read the book or feel like listening to the conversation. So there's several that I've had on the list for like 2 years because it's books that I've had on my TBR list for a long time. And I saw that go by. I saw people review them and it looked interesting, but I haven't gotten to the book yet. So eventually I want to be able to find that video again. It's at the top of the watch later list. But yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And then conversations like with the spa girls, like people who have panels or what's the bookstore? It starts with an H. Haymarket. Haymarket Books in Chicago. They have lots of fabulous discussions about political stuff, socialism stuff, labor rights stuff, philosophical stuff. And they're like an hour as well. Forestry history. There's some random things. I am an eclectic reader, so there's lots of things that I'm interested in that'll get shoved into that pile of watch later. And if they're long, like it may be a long time before I get to it. Just like the books, it may be a while before I get to a certain tome. So yeah, it's same with videos, unfortunately. We've got a Felicia. Hello, welcome. And Jim says, I stopped doing wrap-ups. Yeah, I noticed that. I prefer to review each book I read individually, usually as a 1-minute review. Yes, I see your shift, and I like it. I like what you've done. It's short, which means I will watch it right away rather than like hold on to it. And yeah, you read very interesting books and sometimes ones I haven't heard of, which is fun. JC says, I love the Spa Girls podcast. They're wonderful. I like them as well. Probably 80% of the topics they choose, I'm like, ooh, and I'm taking notes and I'm writing comments and making myself a general nuisance. So I really like their discussions. They're great. Hi, Adega Outlaw. Welcome. We're doing a double tag this Sunday, and I'm wrapping up the first tag, which is about Booktube watching habits. Let's see. So factors into your decision, answered that. What order do you watch? By date published, date added, by channel, type of video, or some other priority? So I sort of answered this. I've got some really old ones that I haven't watched. Date added, definitely not. Channel, that depends on the mood. Type of video. So if you mean like vlogs, I typically wait and I don't watch vlogs until much later because they're longer and they're not urgent. They're like slice of life or what have you. So those probably sit on the list a little bit longer or some other priority. Yeah, like I said, usefulness in the author thing or books that I have read. Often I will see people talking about a book in a wrap up, like they'll put the cover in the thumbnail and I go, ooh, I'll add that to the watch later list because I am reading that book or I've just read that book and I'm interested to hear what the other person thought. So that's pretty cool. Some other priority. I don't think I had any other priority. So final question, are there types or factors in videos that you skip? Ooh, okay. I didn't take notes for that question, of course. Nope. Yes, I did not. Sorry. So types or factors or things that I would skip. So I don't like clickbaity titles. So often if it says that and it's someone I'm like not very close to, so I don't know it's a joke, I'll be like, oh, I don't want to be drawn into that. If it's like a ranty thing, often I will skip those. If it's really long, like over 30 minutes, I'll probably I'll probably just watch the beginning to see what it's about. What else do I skip? I know there's definitely stuff I skip. Let's see. I'm trying to picture my subscriptions page. My eyes just like glazed over certain things. There's a lot of advertisements that they manage to put in your feed, and I can just glaze over those. So that's a good skill that I've cultivated. Nothing else is coming up. Yeah. Let's see. So that is the watch later tag. What's funny is that I did a How Do You Booktube with Beth Ann Burning a Sokolar like 2 years ago. And it only got a few people doing the tag, but it was interesting to see how siloed we are about our habits. Like we think we know how to use YouTube for Booktube, but there are so many different ways of using it that that just conform to your own personality, your own peccadillos, although that means sins, your own habits and needs, basically. And so nothing's wrong. It's just funny to see how people, oh, well, obviously this is the way to do it. And you're like, no, not obvious. So it's been delightful. And I'm glad Reed Becca came up with another version, which is a very specific part of How Do You Booktube, which is your watch later list, which is fascinating. So I'm tagging a few friends for this one. Page Turners with Katya, RK Stumbling Bear, and Books, Ink, and Paper. If you would like to do this, please do. And anyone else as well, you're welcome to. Let me put that down and this down. Here we go. The next one is Counting the Days book tag. And this one is basically asking you to make a TBR due to several factors, and they give questions. So it's not based on a readathon. It's not based on a month. It's just like, I can't wait to read these books because of this reason specifically. So I mostly pulled from my want to read them vaguely, like in the batting circle kind of books. But let's see. There's a couple that I pulled off of a shelf and are sort of random. So let's jump into that one. We've got Aditi here in the house. Hey, welcome, welcome. And Ania, nice to see you. And we're getting on to our second tag, Counting the Days. So question number 1, what is a book that excites you because of its cover? Okay. And I mean, most of the books that I have nice covers. I mean, the covers, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'm going to show this one because I think it's one that I've only highlighted once as part of a haul. And I sort of went off it because I was really intrigued by it. But then I saw a review and then I was like, oh, is that what it is? Now I'm scared to read it. It's called Scarp, In Search of London's Outer Limits by Nick Papadimitriou. And that is the cover. Isn't that cool? I love the colorscape, like this orange sunset hill cityscape foreground. Like I thought this was a really cool design for the cover. And Scarp, I think, is like a regional geographical term. It's something to do with geology and like layers of stone. An extraordinary book by a man with a unique and inspiring perspective. Scarp will change the way you view the places and spaces around you and reveal a forgotten London you never knew existed. And Will Self says something about deep topography. So I'm basically thinking this will be kind of like a Robert McFarlane, sort of science-y, sort of history and self-reflection. But the review that I saw said something about like drug-induced, and I was like, what? So that's why I haven't read it yet, but the cover still gets me. So if anyone has any information on this or the author, let me know, change my mind, get me to read it sooner. But it's a beautiful cover, and I got that in a used book haul, so very exciting. Second question. A book that excites you because of its author. All right. So Dee Dee's going to be excited for this one. She just let me know that there's a sequel to this book, and it's very exciting. So this is the one. Wait, let me check. No, is it not 500? It's only 500 with the appendices. Shoot! Wait, it's exactly 500. Okay, this is the book I intend to read in 24 hours for Herkyed, the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. HRCYED. The Last Thing You Surrender by Leonard Pitts, winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Sorry, Leonard Pitts Jr. My mind is going faster than my mouth. The author. I don't know much about the author. I know that it's a very emotional, challenging, modern book. And I think it's about the African American experience during World War II. And the title would suggest it's like a personal struggle and really getting into someone's journey through trauma. And so I think it's going to be a difficult read, but like a really rewarding one. So I've heard great things about this and very excited to read this as part of Herkyed, but also I had to look for this book for quite a while before I found a copy. So excited, little dopamine from finding it in the wild. That's just me. That's just my fun memory with the book. So that's on the random TBR. I'm getting things here. Yay! He says, you're going to devour it, she says. Yes, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Also an in-depth look into race in the US. In a fiction setting, right? Which is different. I think most of the way I've looked at it successfully that like was really compelling for me, it was in a nonfiction space. So I'm hoping that like this will be a fiction that I connect to. I'm very excited. Very excited. Okay, so the next question, a book that excites you because of its premise. All right, and now here's sort of a controversial one. So this is one of the random ones I pulled off that I hadn't intended to read soon. But so you know your girl loves Scotland, right? That's pretty obvious. And I'm slowly pushing the envelope out to Ireland and including a bit of Irish politics because that's in the bloodlines. The clash is really interesting to me in terms of the British Empire setting minorities that they've conquered against each other for their own gain. And what I've heard about this research avenue is worrying and controversial, but I want to read this fiction book to see what I think about it. So it's called Testimony of an Irish Slave Girl by Kate McCafferty. I got this a while ago, and the book itself was written in 2002. So like I probably heard stuff about Irish slavery or white slavery long after 2002 for sure, and after I got this book. But here's part of the blurb. Kidnapped from Galway, Ireland as a young girl, shipped to Barbados and forced to work the land alongside African slaves, Cot Daly's life has been shaped by injustice. So what I don't like and what makes this controversial to me is when white people clap back and say white people were slaves too, and do not how do I say this? Do not recognize the enormity of the scale difference and the generational trauma inherent with chattel slavery for Africans in the world. And so I have a real problem with people who use, this sorts of historical happenings as, well, we went through it as well, so you don't have anything to complain about. So I'm wary of that side of things. But I'm interested in this like tiny stream of stories, this like actual historical things that happened. What was the relationship between Irish, slaves / indentured servants, which were treated much the same and used up, I'm sure, in the Caribbean Isles, like Africans kidnapped from Africa and used as slaves for whites to gain power and wealth in this era. So I'm interested to see what the author does with this. It's a pretty short one, so, not too bad if it's going to be a terrible take. But yeah, sometimes I have to challenge myself to go into the waters where I'm like, okay, this may be not great, but I want to see for myself. So we'll see. We'll see, and we'll check that out for y'all. Report back. Anita popping in late after guessing on another live stream. Hey, AF Stewart, welcome. Yeah, the face says it all. Okay, next on the tag questions. Excited for a book because of its style. Style. Okay, I think I went in the right order. Style, influence. Yeah. Okay. So, for style, I'm going to go with Islands of Abandonment, which has been on several TBRs and I haven't read yet. Nature Rebounding in the Post-Human Landscape by Cal Flynn. So, when I said Scarp is expected to be like Robert McFarlane, I think this is the style that I'm hoping to see in this book. I picked it up on the strength of a recommendation from a booktuber in Australia who no longer posts, sadly. But she was very excited about this and said it was fabulous. And when I look in it, it's organized by place, right? So it's going into place where humans have left. And so you've got human relics and ruins, but nature is taking them over. So it's kind of like the abandoned, biodomes or roller coasters or whatever you see on those TikToks and like reels and stuff that are fun, but also going into some of the history and like the environmental science of what is rebounding and how maybe it's remediating itself. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. But we've got part 1, In Absentia, part 2, Those Who Remain, part 3, The Long Shadow, part 4, Endgame. And we're going from West Lothian, Scotland. That's a good place to start. The buffer zone in Cyprus, Estonia, Chernobyl in Ukraine, Detroit, Paterson, New Jersey, Arthur Kill, Staten Island, Verdun, France, Tanzania, Swona, Scotland. I've never heard of that. Montserrat, and the Salton Sea, which I think is no longer a sea in California. So from the viewpoint of the Earth, very hopeful, very demure, very mindful. From the viewpoint of humans, maybe it's like an Earth clapping back and saying, hey, you don't take care of things. This is what's going to happen. And that to me is a joyful read. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Okay. The style of that I think I'm going to like, because I like books that treat a theme and look at many sides of it. I've tried to describe that and I don't really have a word for it, but in other videos, it's like a multifaceted examination of an issue. So that's scratches my itch. It's a good jam. The next one was about influence, a book you're excited about because of its influence. And I've got a good one for this. Okay, so if you have been on YouTube and you're a booktuber, have you heard of Lena Norms? So she's on Booktube, but she's also on like fashion eco sustainability part of YouTube. And I love her style and her mission and what she talks about and how she curates her stuff. So I love Lena Norms. Leena. Definitely look her up. She's also a poet and has published a couple books now, I think. But she recommended this as like her top reads, right? We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. And see, I messed it up because I used to get Jonathan Safran Foer mixed up with Jonathan Franzen. Don't do this. Don't make this mistake. So I got over myself. I got over that misunderstanding. And I'm excited to read this. A little trepidatious because, it's talking about what we eat and how that affects the planet. Saving the planet begins at breakfast. But she said this was like life-changing, like really affecting. And climate nonfiction. right? So the author's talking about what we eat, our food systems, how that has changed the planet, how that will change the planet, probably options for options for our actions and what effects they would have. Because like how we eat is changing the weather. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy to me. So influence. Lena Norms has influenced me. This book influenced her. So this is the one I thought for that prompt. It's on my Climathon reading list for the year, but maybe I'll get to it sooner rather than later in December because it's on my Counting the Days reading list now. So that was a good one. Next is a book I'm excited to read because of its emotional weight. Emotional weight. Oh, yes. Okay. And Jim will recognize this because I've talked about it recently. Clear. So this was in a Blackwell's book haul. It's by Karis Davis. It's new release. It's quite small. And the theme is related to the books I've written. So if you've read my books, if you've heard of the plots, they're about the Highland clearances and how they affect one family living on the Isle of Mull in Scotland. And Clear is also about the clearances. It's about 20 years later than my setting and north on U.S. Strait. Let me remind myself. Ivar, a remote Scottish island off the north coast. Well, maybe it's just suggested. Maybe it's Shetland. I don't know. I will have to read it, but it's a different island. So similar experience, different time, different plot. The plot sounds very interesting. Someone washes up after a shipwreck and he's supposed to tell the people to get out. And the people who are supposed to get out nurse him back to health and don't speak his language because they're Gaelic speaking only. And so they learn to communicate before they realize what the mission is. And so emotional weight, like having already waded into this, having researched the subject deeply, having written about it in a sympathetic way, I'm very curious if Karis Davis is going to have me sympathizing with people I have not previously sympathized with. I don't know, but I'm excited to read this one. I think I'm set to get through all of my Blackwell's haul, which is like 6 books in like 5 months after I ordered them, which is a record. I've been trying to get better about reading books faster after I buy them. So there's that. So emotional weight, a book I'm excited about reading because of its sense of humor. Okay, so this one is also a Herkiad book. I nominated this one for the cover. It's brown for sure. It's called Encounters with the Archdruid by John McPhee. And it's an old sort of classic. Ooh, did we just have a moth fly out of it? Perhaps. Let's see. 1971. Definitely a classic. 18th printing in 1989. So I have a friend who really likes John McPhee. And I have read a few of his books, but mostly the ones to do with food. Unless I'm thinking of a different John McPhee. Anyway, I think he's a wide-ranging sort of philosopher, Renaissance man of the 60s. So it could be the same one. But this had me intrigued, right? Encounters with the Archdruid. So you've already got me intrigued because druids are a Celtic history swathed in mystery, right? Narratives about a conservationist and 3 of his natural enemies. What? So I started reading this and I had to put it down, but it's funny already. And it's like setting up these 3 people who are together in a wilderness who have very conflicting, I would say, political views on nature and like being the master of nature or conquering nature or civilizing nature and like being part of it, right? And so like an interesting beginning, and the tone is very interesting and rueful. Is that the right word? And witty and dry. And so like I'm looking forward to this for the humor. And it's the brown cover for Herkiad because there's a rainbow challenge on the covers. So yeah, yeah, this is a good find in the used bookstore, and excited to read that one for humor. And I think there's one more, which is a book I'm excited to read about because of its challenge. Now, all of these have varying levels of challenge, but here's one that was on, hold on a sec. Okay. Here's one that was on recent TBRs, but I did not get to. So it's a challenge because I've already failed reading it, but I really want to read it because it's very relevant, and it's a small one. So like I need to get on it. It's 7 Women, Portraits from the American Radical Tradition by Judith Nice. Nice. Nice? I'm going to go with Nice. And this is also an old one. It is 1977. And who does it talk about? These women from the radical tradition. So we've got Sarah Moore Grimke, Harriet Tubman, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Mother Jones, Charlotte Perkins Gilman, Anna Louise Strong, and Dorothy Day. So most of these you may have heard of, but like, how do they fit into the radical tradition? And because I want to start a hashtag with radical fiction, and you know, maybe the people who are going to be on my Good Fight Fridays would be radical fiction lovers as well. Small side note, this Friday, I have Natasha Pulley coming on as a guest to have an author interview about Good Fight Fridays, social movements, and sort of political questions and economic inequality in fiction. So in leading up to my launch, I'm going to be interviewing authors about this topic because I think I read it and I love it, and it's like near to my heart to have it, to see it addressed and to have people thinking about it. So good nonfiction for that. And I would just really appreciate people coming on the channel who have also written about it, wrestled with the topics, and put it in their fiction. So very excited. That's it. That's my rainbow for counting the days. Woohoo! All right. So that, oh, and who am I tagging? For counting the days, I am tagging Dave and Olive at Book Blather, Nicole at Noteworthy Fiction, and Books and Chocoholic. So those are people who I thought would do a great job with a TBR for all those issues and like featuring different books for those categories. So there we are. We're just at the 40-minute mark. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, even if you're not tagged, you're free to do one of these tags if they seem fun. Later on today, I've got my Patreon book club for Yinka, Where Is Your Husband by Lizzie Domilola Blackburn. It was a slow start, but then it ended up making me cry. So, I had to change my mind about this book. And so I will be talking about that and other books on my Wednesday wrap up. So that is probably the next time I will see you. But until then, thank you so much for being here and playing with the community, and take care of yourself. Happy reading, everyone. Don't forget to diversify that reading list. All right, catch you next time.